I was raised to believe the law was clean. I believed my father made it clean. When Park Jae-seok died, the city of Ulsan dressed itself in black and called it honor. I stood behind the flag-draped coffin and felt nothing except pressure in my chest. Cameras flashed like judgment. Reporters whispered his titles: Senior Prosecutor, National Pillar, my father. People bowed to me as if virtue was genetic. I bowed back because that is what daughters of righteous men do. Inside, something waited. I did not know its name yet, only its weight. The kind of weight that presses before a truth breaks skin. I remember thinking the silence felt staged, like a verdict reached before the trial began. Welcome if this is your first time here, and welcome back if you've been watching with us. Tell me where you're watching from. This channel tells stories that hit home, the kind that sit with you after the screen goes dark. If that's your kind of story, you already know what to do. The will is read 3 days later in a quiet office that smells like paper and polish. My brother Min Jae sits straight, already practicing his future smile. My mother keeps her hands folded, eyes lowered, the posture of a woman who has survived by not asking. The lawyer's voice is calm, too calm. Min Jae receives the estate, the accounts, the connections that still hum with power. I receive a modest sum, an iron key, coordinates, and a note written in my father's careful hand. Some truths cannot survive the light. This is yours now. The room does not react, but something in me does. Inheritance is supposed to explain love. This explains nothing. I drive alone out of the city, past shipyards and rusted cranes. The coordinates lead me to a storage facility the city forgot. Its gates sag. Weeds push through concrete like small rebellions. I tell myself I am here to close a file, not open one. The key fits a panel hidden beneath dead machinery. Metal slides back. An elevator waits where nothing should be. I hesitate. This is the moment prosecutors warn others about. Curiosity dressed as duty. I step inside anyway. The elevator descends too far for comfort. The air grows cold. When the doors open, concrete surrounds me on all sides. This is not neglect. This is design. A room reinforced, sealed, deliberate. Chains scrape. A man lifts his head from the floor. His beard is gray. His eyes are sharp. He is alive in a place built to forget life. I feel the law fracture inside me. I hear myself breathe too loudly. This is not evidence. This is a sentence still being served. My voice fails before my training finds it. He tells me his name is Adebayo Okafor. He says he has been here for over 25 years. He says my father put him here. No charges, no record, no death, erasure without mercy. I want to call him a liar because that would preserve the world I know. Instead, I ask questions like a prosecutor. He answers like a man who has practiced patience as a weapon. He does not ask for freedom. He waits. I return to the surface, and the city welcomes me back like nothing has changed. Traffic moves, news cycles turn. At home, my mother serves tea and does not ask where I went. Min Jae talks about donors and momentum. I say little. At night, I read my father's old cases. Files are missing. Signatures do not align. Autopsies feel edited. The law I trusted now looks touched. Fingerprints where none should be. I realize justice is not blind. It just knows who to look away from. I go back to the bunker. I bring food, medicine, conversation. He tells me about Funka, his fiancée, a student, a woman who laughed too easily in a country that never felt like home. He says my father wanted her. He says she died the night he confronted him. A car accident. A convenient ending. I listen because listening feels like action. Inside, I am already bargaining. If I understand this, I can control it. That is what my father believed too. Evidence begins to resist his story. Hospital records show injuries Funk tried to hide. Witness statements describe shouting, not seduction. Messages reveal she planned to leave him. The affair was not power, it was refuge. I feel sick realizing how easily narratives bend around pain. Beo watches me read. He knows when doubt appears. He adjusts his tone. This is not survival instinct. This is control refined by time. I understand what my father did. He found a monster and chose a cage over a courtroom. He chose silence over risk. I tell myself he was protecting someone, the city, my family, me. The lie settles easily because it is inherited. When I leave the bunker that night, I lock the door carefully. I tell myself this is temporary. I tell myself control is not cruelty, even as something inside me answers back quietly. That is exactly how it begins. The next morning, I sit in my office surrounded by case files that suddenly feel theatrical, arguments, timelines, truth arranged for permission. Across the glass wall, junior prosecutors move with certainty I no longer possess. My phone vibrates with my brother's name. He talks about polling numbers and endorsements. I hear ambition wearing my father's voice. When I hang up, the silence presses harder than yesterday. I realize the bunker did not stay underground. It followed me here. I return again at night. This time I bring questions sharpened by doubt. Bio studies my face before I speak. He asks if I believe him yet. I ask about Funka's injuries, about the messages, about the neighbors who heard screaming. For the first time, his control slips, just slightly. He reframes, minimizes, explains violence as love misunderstood. I recognize the tactic from domestic abuse cases I once prosecuted with certainty. Recognition does not make it easier. I leave before he finishes. In my car, my hands shake against the steering wheel. I think of my father's handwriting. Some truths cannot survive the light. He did not mean the truth would die. He meant people would. At home, my mother watches an old news broadcast about my father's career. She asks if I am eating well. I nod. She does not look at me when she says he was a good man. I understand then that silence was her sentence too. I pull archived police records from sealed storage using authority I never questioned before. A clerk hesitates. I do not. The system opens because it always has for this name. Park. I see where procedures ended early, where discretion replaced process. Where a dangerous man slipped outside the law not by accident, but by design. My father's choice was not passion, it was calculation, containment masquerading as protection. I dream of the bunker, not as it is, but as a courtroom, chains where benches should be, my father standing where judges sit. I wake before a verdict is spoken. Sweat clings to my skin like guilt. For the first time, I understand fear not as threat, but as inheritance. What he passed to me was not power, it was responsibility without guidance. Days pass, I keep Bayo alive. That is the choice I make without ceremony. Food, medicine, locks checked twice. Each visit tightens something in him. He asks about my life, my work, my fiancé. The questions are casual, they are not harmless. I answer carefully, aware too late that information can be a gift to the wrong person. At dinner, Min-jae announces his official campaign launch. My mother smiles on cue. I clap when required. He thanks me for supporting the family legacy. Legacy. The word tastes wrong. I imagine the bunker beneath the city, unmoving, patient. I imagine what would happen if the ground shifted. Power does not fear truth. It fears disruption. The turning point comes quietly. I notice a bolt loosened near the chain anchor. Not broken. Tested. Bayo watches my eyes track it. He smiles without warmth. Decades underground have not weakened him. They refined him. I realize my father did not stop a monster. He preserved one. And by maintaining the cage, I am doing the same. I drive home with a plan forming that I do not name yet. Something between duty and fear. Containment feels safer than exposure. I tell myself I am preventing chaos. I tell myself this is temporary. I tell myself this is different because I see him clearly now. The lies sound reasonable. That is what frightens me most. That night I return one last time before deciding anything final. The air in the bunker feels charged. Bayo is calm, too calm. He asks if I ever wondered why my father chose me. Before I can answer, the lights flicker. The chain pulls taut. Something shifts that cannot be undone. I feel it in my chest before it reaches my hands. This is no longer about the past. I hear the chain before I feel the impact. Metal shrieks. Pain explodes across my shoulder as I hit the concrete wall. He moves faster than I thought possible. Years underground did not make him weak. They made him precise. My training vanishes. This is not a courtroom. This is instinct against instinct. I scramble backward as his weight crashes into me. The lock snaps open. Control leaves the room. I run. The elevator feels impossibly far. My hands shake as I hit the button. Behind me, footsteps echo with certainty. The doors slide shut just as his hand slams against metal. The descent is agony. My breath stutters. Blood runs warm down my arm. For the first time since my father's death, I am not thinking about justice. I am thinking about survival. I do not call the police. That truth lands fully formed. There is no deliberation. No weighing of consequences. The system I serve cannot absorb this without collapse. I clean the blood from my sleeve in a public restroom and stare at my reflection. I look like my father when he made his choice. Calm on the surface. Ruined underneath. Bio disappears into the city. No alarms. No reports. Ulsan moves as it always does. Ship horns sound. Markets open. People live. I search surveillance feeds through unofficial channels. He avoids cameras like he knows where they are. Because he does. He learned patience here. He learned invisibility from my father. My fiancé calls while I am reviewing footage. His voice is warm, ordinary. He talks about dinner plans. I almost tell him everything. Almost. Instead, I tell him I'm working late. The words taste like metal. Bio's questions echo back to me now with clarity. They were not curiosity. They were preparation. If you're watching and still here, take a minute and subscribe. These stories don't rush, and neither should you. I arrive at my apartment too late. The door is unlocked. Nothing is overturned. Nothing screams violence. That is what terrifies me. I step inside slowly. The lights are off. The silence is deliberate. I know before I see him. He lies on the floor of the living room. My fiancé. Still. Peaceful in a way death never is. There is no rage in how it was done, no mess, no struggle. This was not punishment. This was demonstration. Ownership asserted. Something inside me breaks cleanly, not loudly, decisively. I do not scream. I do not cry. I feel the way evidence feels when it finally aligns. This is who Bio has always been. This is what my father saw, what he feared. What he tried to bury without destroying. Containment failed because containment always fails. Evil does not rot quietly. It waits. I leave the apartment before dawn. I know where he will go. Not because I tracked him, because I understand him now. He will return to the place where control was taken from him, where it can be reclaimed. The bunker is not just a prison. It is his origin story. And this ends where it began. I return to the bunker before sunrise. The place breathes differently now. Open. Violated. The elevator doors are scarred where he forced them apart earlier. I step inside with no weapon except certainty. My heart is steady in a way that frightens me. This is not courage. It is clarity. I am no longer choosing between right and wrong. I am choosing between damage and containment. The bunker lights are on when I arrive. He wants me to see him. Bio stands unchained, taller than I remember. Freedom fits him too well. He smiles as if welcoming me home. He says my name slowly, as if tasting ownership. I realize then that he never intended to run. He intended to be followed. He talks about my father, about fear disguised as morality. He thanks me for my kindness, for my weakness. Each word is measured to provoke response. I do not give him one. I see the pattern now. Attention is his oxygen. Denial starves him. He circles me slowly, too close. He tells me my fiancé died quickly, that he was gentle, that I should be grateful. I feel something rise that is not rage. It is decision. Clean, unemotional, the way verdicts are supposed to be. I move when he underestimates me. Not fast, not wild, purposeful. The struggle is brutal and brief. He is strong, but he is careless now. Freedom made him arrogant. We crash into the concrete wall. Something sharp meets flesh. His breath leaves him in a sound like disbelief. I feel his weight collapse. Warmth spreads across my hands. I do not pull away. I hold on until his body stops resisting. This is not victory, it is termination. A file closed without ceremony. I listen for life. There is none. I sit there longer than necessary. Shock never comes, only inventory. What exists? What must be erased? What cannot follow me back to the surface? I think of my father for the last time without anger. He was wrong, but he was not blind. I clean the room. Every surface, every mark. I work with the efficiency I learned from him. When I am done, nothing remains that suggests life was ever held here. The bunker becomes what it was always meant to be, a blank space beneath the city. I seal the elevator and lock the panel back into place. The key feels heavier than before. As I leave, the sun breaks over Ulsan's skyline. The city does not know what was settled beneath it. It never will. I walk back into daylight carrying something older than grief. Inheritance complete. The city accepts me back without question. Ulsan always does. I return to work after the funeral that never officially happened. No leave, no explanation. Grief is expected to be quiet in this profession. My colleagues lower their voices around me. They assume my hollow calm is mourning. They do not know it is containment. I prosecute my first case back with surgical precision. The defendant trembles. I do not. At night, I replay everything without emotion, not the violence, the choices. Each step mapped clearly now. I understand my father in ways I once resisted. Power does not corrupt first. It convinces. It whispers that harm can be measured, that outcomes justify silence, that responsibility means deciding alone. The realization settles without drama. I am capable of what he was capable of. My brother's campaign accelerates. Minjae's face fills screens across the city. Integrity, stability, the park legacy. He asks me to attend a fundraiser. I stand beside him, smiling when required. I watch donors shake his hand with practiced trust. No one asks what justice costs. They assume it is free. My mother invites me for tea. We sit across from each other in familiar silence. She tells me she always feared the basement in our old house, that she never asked why it was locked. Her voice does not shake. Mine almost does. We speak around the truth like survivors navigating debris. When I leave, she grips my hand too tightly. I understand then that she knows enough. If you're still watching, take a minute and subscribe. These stories build slowly for a reason. A new case crosses my desk. Domestic violence. The details are familiar in a way that tightens my chest. The accused insists on misunderstanding, on love distorted, on patience deserved. I dismantle his defense without mercy. When the verdict comes back guilty, the courtroom exhales. Justice is clean here. That does not comfort me. At night, I visit the coast where industry meets water. The waves move without memory. I envy them. I think of the bunkers sealed beneath concrete and policy. No marker, no closure, just absence. This is what history is built on. What survives. What is buried well enough to disappear. Minjae wins the election. Applause fills the hall like approval from something larger than people. He thanks our father publicly. He thanks me privately. He says the family is whole again. I smile and say nothing. Families do not heal, they adapt. I am promoted 3 months later, commended for consistency, for restraint, for judgment. The irony is sharp but manageable. I have learned how to live with contradictions. They are easier when no one names them. The system rewards that skill generously. Sometimes, late at night, I catch myself reaching for the iron key. It is not there. I disposed of it carefully. But habit lingers longer than objects. What my father gave me was not a secret place. It was permission to decide when the law ends and what replaces it. Time moves forward because it has no alternative. Months pass without disruption. No rumors surface. No loose ends surface. The bunker remains sealed beneath rust and bureaucracy. I tell myself this means the decision was correct. Stability returns quickly when power agrees to forget. I file motions. I argue cases. I win more often than I lose. The city continues to reward predictability. A junior prosecutor asks me for guidance on a sensitive case. He wants to know how far discretion can stretch before it becomes misconduct. I answer carefully. I speak about procedure, about boundaries, about restraint. I do not mention the space beneath the city where law never entered. He nods, reassured. I watch him walk away carrying a version of certainty I once had. At home, I sort through my father's remaining belongings. Most of it is ordinary. Books, notes, clothes pressed with discipline. Nothing confesses, nothing apologizes. I find an old notebook filled with legal citations and margins marked in his hand. No names, no bunker, only questions circled without answers. Even he did not write the truth down. I attend a memorial event held in my father's honor. Speakers praise his courage, his integrity, the lives he protected. I listen without reaction. Public memory is a performance that demands agreement. I clap when others clap. I bow when required. I leave before the speeches end. The case that nearly breaks my composure arrives without warning. A suspect held without proper charges. An illegal detention justified by perceived threat. The facts mirror something buried too closely. I review the file 3 times. Each reading tightens my chest. I authorize release. Procedure restored. Balance corrected. I tell myself this is how guilt behaves when it wants redemption. That night, I dream again. Not of the bunker, of corridors that never end, doors without labels, keys that do not fit. I wake before choosing one. The dream does not accuse me, it observes. I understand that some consequences do not arrive as punishment, they arrive as awareness. My mother's health begins to fail quietly. Nothing dramatic, just fatigue. Memory slipping at the edges. I sit beside her hospital bed as machines hum softly. She asks if everything is settled now. I say yes. She closes her eyes, relieved. The lie feels merciful. Minjai visits me late one evening. He thanks me again for protecting the family name. He does not ask how. He does not want to know. Power rarely demands details from those it benefits. When he leaves, I lock the door behind him and stand there longer than necessary. The house feels empty despite being intact. I stand on the balcony overlooking the city. Lights pulse below like a living organism. Somewhere beneath it all, concrete holds what cannot speak. I am still a prosecutor. The law still functions. Justice still appears on schedule. But I know now that truth is not the system's priority. Continuity is. The promotion changes nothing essential. My office is larger. The silence is thicker. I sign off on cases with authority that no longer feels borrowed. People defer to me instinctively now, not because they trust me, because they sense finality. I recognize the shift immediately. This is how power settles in. A journalist requests an interview about my father's legacy, an anniversary piece, safe, predictable. I decline politely. Public memory does not need my voice. It already knows what it wants to remember. When I hang up, I realize I am protecting something again. Not him, the structure he left behind. An internal review committee circulates an inquiry about historical prosecutorial overreach. Old cases, systemic discretion, nothing specific, nothing dangerous. Still my name appears on the list of consultants. I am asked to advise where lines should be drawn. I almost laugh. Instead, I prepare notes with measured language, boundaries described without edges. During testimony rehearsals, a young witness breaks down. Fear unravels her carefully memorized statement. I dismiss the room, sit across from her, lower my voice. I tell her the truth will protect her. As I say it, I feel the echo of another room. Concrete, chains, silence. If you're still watching, take a minute and subscribe. Some stories only work if you stay with them to the end. That night, I walk through the city without purpose. Ulsan hums around me, indifferent and functional. I pass courthouses, offices, apartment blocks stacked with unseen decisions. Order everywhere. Truth nowhere visible. I understand now why my father chose certainty over exposure. Chaos does not announce what it destroys. I stop near the old industrial zone, not at the bunker, near it. The ground looks ordinary, unmarked. I imagine what would happen if it were uncovered: committees, scandals, collateral damage with no clear endpoint. Justice would not rise from it, only noise. Back home, I draft a speech for an ethics seminar. The words come easily: accountability, transparency, safeguards. I know exactly what people want to hear. I also know what they do not want examined. The gap between those truths feels stable now, livable. I visit my mother less often, not from distance, from preservation. She smiles when she sees me. She believes things ended correctly. That belief keeps her breathing evenly. I do not disturb it. Some truths do not heal. They fracture. Standing alone at night, I realize the final inheritance was never the bunker. It was the understanding of how systems survive. They do not eliminate threats. They absorb them, shape them, make them useful. I am no longer outside that process. I am proof that it works. The phone rings in the quiet of my apartment. It is Min-jae, distant but polite. He speaks about the next campaign cycle, donors and plans. I answer with careful brevity. He does not ask questions I cannot answer. We are separated by knowledge neither of us will name. Conversation ends smoothly. Politeness now holds more weight than family. I hang up and feel the absence in my chest. This is inheritance, unspoken and heavy. I visit the coast once more, industrial lights flickering across water. Ships move steadily, indifferent to anything beneath them. I imagine the bunker resting silently. I think of Bio, of my father, of every choice made and unmade. The water does not judge. It does not remember. I realize that is what makes it enviable. I am still human. I must carry memory and consequence. A colleague seeks my opinion on revising old case protocols. I advise procedural rigor, citing ethics and safety. No one asks how discretion is truly managed. I offer a version they can digest comfortably. They nod. I return to my office alone, knowing the system depends on people like me. Invisible hands guiding outcomes while everyone sees a smooth surface. At home, I arrange old files. Some bear my father's signature. Some are unsigned, waiting for judgment that never came. I do not read them all. I organize, place, seal. The act is ritual. I feel his influence even in absence. I understand now that inheritance is as much about habits as wealth. I walk the city streets late one evening. The air smells of salt and steel. Windows glow with life. I pass courthouses, offices, markets. Everything operates as it always has. I am part of that rhythm now. Silent choices beneath the surface guide outcomes, unseen and unquestioned. This is survival. This is influence. I attend a ceremony commemorating law enforcement achievements. Min-jae is celebrated again, praised for leadership and dedication. I sit in the crowd, applauding politely. No one notices the distance behind my eyes. They see the Park family preserved. I see the mechanisms beneath it, still functioning, still hidden, and I am the final executor. I return home and sit by the window. The city sprawls below. Traffic moves like clockwork. I think about the decisions that made it this way, not the law itself. The compromises, the containment, the choices left unspoken. I feel their weight now more than ever. It is mine to bear indefinitely. The key is gone, the bunker sealed. The man no longer exists in our world, yet his presence lingers in memory, in instinct, in caution. I understand that some inheritances are invisible. They shape action silently. They define outcomes before anyone notices. I am no longer the daughter of a man who wielded power. I am its custodian. I stand once more on the rooftop overlooking Ulsan. Wind lifts my coat. I breathe deeply. I am the same woman who entered a hidden bunker months ago. And I am not. I have inherited knowledge, silence, and responsibility. Justice remains, fragile and performative. Truth lies beneath, quiet and untouchable. The city moves on. I do too, because that is what it demands. Subscribe, like, comment, and stay connected. The story ends here, but the consequences linger. Bloodline debt is a reminder that some inheritances are heavier than gold, and the weight shapes who we become.